hitting the record button. Then what I thought I'd do is guide you through some resources that I've found helpful as I've been learning how the editorial workflow works with this journal, and then guide you through the workflow. So first thing, before I say anything else, on YouTube, there's something you might want to have a look at in case you need instantaneous answers to questions. You can always email me, but you might find it here faster. So the journal system, PKP, or the company, has playlists of tutorials. And one of them that I really like is called Editorial Workflow in OJS3. So you can search that on YouTube, and it has all kinds of what they call modules. And they have a different module for each video. And they explain different things. There's about 10 of them in this playlist. And those correspond to different stages of the editorial process. In your experience, you might have conceived of it differently, but they think of it in 4 different stages. The submission stage, the review stage, the copy editing stage, and the production stage. So sometimes they have a module just dedicated to that, and sometimes they divide those stages into multiple videos if they have more information to give. So it's really useful. Have a look for that playlist. Then the other thing I'll do is I'll be toggling back and forth between these 2 tabs on occasion. So this is our journal website, and this is a pretend website from the journal, and that'll just help with confidentiality so that I can look at pretend articles, that kind of thing. But for now, we'll just go back to our journal. And what I thought I'd do is make a pretend submission on behalf of somebody else. Before I do that, I'll introduce you to the website. This is the front end. This is what everybody sees, whether or not they're affiliated with IASPM Journal or IASPM at all. If they go to iaspmjournal.net, they'll see this webpage. The back end is where we can do things. And if you're registered with the website, you can interact with, if you're a reviewer, you can interact with your editors. If you're taking on an editorial role, let's say there's a special issue and you want to be the editor of a section, I'll show you where you would do that. So by going, if you're registered with the website, you go move your mouse up to the top right-hand corner, and you'll see 2 options besides the logout option, the dashboard and view profile. The dashboard brings you to the back end, and I'll show you that momentarily. View profile is really helpful if you're receiving unwanted emails. So I'll let you know that off the bat. This is where you give all kinds of identification, contact information, but the notifications is what I found really useful, because some people were getting emails that said a new article has been submitted, to which the editor needs to be assigned every single time somebody submitted something. So if you're getting unwanted emails, you would go into the My Profile, go into the Notifications tab, and then uncheck these things. Do not send me an email for these kinds of notifications. You can always email me and say, I'm getting these emails, I don't want them, but that's the solution if you need them. This profile thing, edit profile, is really helpful there. Now, I'm just going back to the front end. If I want to access back end things, dashboard is the term that this website uses. So I click on that, and now I'm in the back end. There's all kinds of options on the sidebar, but that's because I'm an administrative user. You might only have the submissions, for instance, or something less. But this is where you'll be working with articles if you are in an editorial role, or as a reviewer or something like that. And I'll show you that momentarily. So what I'm going to do, because I'm an administrator, I'm able to kind of possess other accounts like a ghost. And so I'm going to pretend to be Tom Wagner, I'm not sure. And I'm going to submit an article on his behalf. So I'm just going to, let's see here, find him. go into his account. Okay, this little arrow is something you'll often see with the website, and it's useful to know about because you click on it and it gives you more options. And you'll see that often, these little arrows. So I'm doing that, and I'm going to log in as Tom. Okay, so now I'm Tom, and you can see how the sidebar has disappeared. All of those options are gone. So you might see something more like this. And I'm going to go back to the beginning of the journal. So if, say, a student of yours wanted to submit an article, it's really easy for them. They just have to click Make a Submission. There's also the submissions menu here under About. They both bring you to the exact same screen, and I'll show you that momentarily. But you might want to let your students know that there's information here for readers, for authors, for librarians, previous issues here about the journal. But we're going to go ahead and just click Make a Submission. And that's where we run into the submission preparation checklist. This is really important to know about, not only as an author, but also if you're in any sort of reviewing capacity or editorial capacity. Our editor, Mary Fogarty, really stressed that anybody working with us should review these things. So it has to do with word lengths, style guides, tips for ensuring a blind review. This link is actually broken right now, but I'll fix that. But all kinds of different things that are useful. And it's not actually possible to submit an article without checking each of these items on one of the next screens. So that's handy as well. Author guidelines can be found just by scrolling down. The editorial process is explained. And also, this I find really cool, actually. So a few types of submissions that you can make. Some of them you're familiar with already, articles, reviews, but these are more unique to the journal. Branch reports, and so this talks about what branch reports are, and then this is really interesting. I actually don't know that much about it and want to find out more. This pop music PhD abstract. I don't think other journals have this feature. So it's an opportunity for students to know about. You might want to let them know about really small 350-word thesis talking about their ongoing research. I think this would be really useful for collaborative work. Say somebody's looking for ethnography with informants, something like this would get the word out. And I think that's really useful as an opportunity for doctoral students, master's students. And then, of course, copyright and privacy notice. So all kinds of information on the submissions page. But we're going to click Make a New Submission. And we're going to start the submission process. So we select the type of submission it could be. I was just talking about the pop music PhD abstract. So if one of your students wanted to submit one of those, they would select that. But we're going to choose an article. And the section policy comes up for each of them. So we have a different section policy for an article than we would have for a pop music PhD. That just sort of explains it. And these are the check boxes that I referred to that you have to select to show that you've read them. Comments for the editor. So please ignore. This is a demo. And copyright agreements, these are mandatory to the Creative Commons license 3.0. We might be working with 4.0. I'm not sure. I have to look into that. So we'll save and we'll continue and we move on to the next stage. Here, we're going to add a file or upload a file. They both do the same thing. And I'm going to select a list of books I'd like to buy and pretend that this is an article. So I'm going to do that. And you'll notice it asks me here to specify the kind of file. 90% of the time, it's just going to be an article text, so I'll click on that. But you have several options. I think journals in the sciences might have data analysis or data set or something like that. But we'll select an article text. So we'll save that. And now, if we wanted to change our minds, we have the option to hit edit, but instead we're just going to save and continue. And this is where we enter the information that the website will use to help us search for the article. So titles, the or and then we're going to call this article "The Books I'd Like to Buy," a list of works or worth buying, or a pretend submission for demo purposes. So the abstract, this article is a list of books worth purchasing. That's my tiny abstract. If you had a co-author, you could add them here, and you would specify all their information, including the homepage URL or ORCID ID. If you don't have one of those, they're useful to look into. I want to get one soon myself. And this is important, principal contact for editorial correspondence. So that's a useful checkbox to remember if you want your co-author to be the principal correspondence. But for now, we're just going to have a single author, Tom. And more information here. Coverage information is actually geographical. And this helps with SEO. So it helps with getting your article found. So geographical, chronological, which is why I'm putting Peru, and then I'm specifying 16th century in 2 different ways. So coverage information helps people to find your article. I don't know what to write for rights, but I assume if I were, if I had to, I would research that and know about it. But if you want to enter a brief statement about access rights, if that's a concern for you, you would do it here. For each of the ones below, what's important to know is the enter button here. So I'm specifying English, and I hit enter, and then I can specify other languages. And I think the reason why that's useful is because, let's say I want more than one word, music theory and analysis as a discipline, then that helps me specify that. Psychology, astronomy, some of the books I want to buy are astronomical books. So keywords, books, tomes, deals, bargains, there we go. And now that all helps people find our article. So it's ready to submit. We'll finish that. Yes, I want to submit to the journal. And then it gives us the option to review, create a new submission, return to the dashboard, which is the back end of the journal. So Tom is done submitting his article, and now we move on to the rest of the process. So I'm going to log out as Tom. And now, I'm myself, Eric, as an editor. So I'm looking at the back end. I have a lot more options, but here is where I'll see things I'm working through. And unassigned has to do with a brand new submission, the books I'd like to buy, a pretend submission for demo purposes here. And so this tells me that I need to assign an editor. I'm just going to toggle over to a little PowerPoint that I put together to show you some things here. So in the corner here, I've highlighted submission, review, copy, editing, production. Those are the 4 stages that I mentioned the journal works with. And so we could see that the one I'm working with is in the submission stage, but there are other ones, and they have these handy little icons as well. So I'll show you some of that. Sorry for moving really quickly. I'm going to go over to the pretend one so that you don't have to see any identifying information. So under review, this tells me information about reviewers, how many people have been assigned or how many have seen them. And if I want more information, I'll click here, and then it'll tell me assigned reviews completed. So nobody for this, but you can quickly see at a glance if people have submitted their revisions. And open discussions is a new feature in this version of this software, the OGS 3.3 software that wasn't in the previous one, and they're really useful as well. So I'm going to, for instance, scroll down to here. So this example under the review stage, one of the reviewers is done. There are 3 revisions submitted. Nobody's created a discussion. Okay, so we'll go back. and I'm going to assign an editor. Okay. And for this, let's see. Okay. I'm just thinking I'm going to assign myself, and if you want, you can limit the privileges that somebody has here, but an editorial assignment. So this is a form message that you would send out if you were in an editorial capacity for a special issue or something like that. Something to warn you about is an ongoing problem that I'm looking to solve, which is these tend to go into junk mail folders right now because the subject heading here contains the initials of the journal, and that's mandatory. So if you find after a certain amount of time you're not getting a response, you might want to email the people directly in case it's gone to their junk mail. So I'm going to hit OK, and I've been notified I've been added as a stage participant. So nothing's in my queue yet until I refresh. I hit submissions, now it's there. And there's now a discussion, a submission. I could see an open discussion if I want to know what it is. Oh, this is all the stuff that's happened. So there's a nice useful log if you're confused. You can add a note here. Here's a note so that you can keep track of things as well. I posted a note and there's a record of it. If at any point you want help, this will usually bring you information related to the page you're on. And if you want to see an index of that, there's this table of contents at the top, which provides you an index for the whole website. So that's kind of useful as well. And you'll see that in different stages. So where we were before, there's the help icon. So look for that. Now, I'm going to view the submission now, and this will bring me to a different screen. You'll notice you have a couple tabs up here. As we move between these four stages for editorial workflow, and as we move from them, at any stage, you can move from the workflow to the publication, where you can specify information about the publication. We'll come back to that a bit later. But for now, we're at the submission stage. So what I need as an editor going over this thing is to send it for review. So I've got my submission files here. I might want to have an additional file. So there's not a revision. So I'm going to select other, and I'm actually going to upload that PowerPoint that I was putting together. It's something else that I want as a file here. So this is useful too, how to ensure that all files are anonymized. They give instructions for going to Word and getting rid of the pesky author identifiers in the comments. You might have editorial comments, you might have author things. That's useful for if you are an editor and you want to get rid of identifying information for blind review. So more information that I can specify for the file, but I'm just going to ignore that and complete it. And now there's the initial submission and also this file that I added. Okay. And that drop-down arrow gives me options to work with it. I can edit or look at more information. The preview review discussions is the feature that I was kind of mentioning earlier. So the advantage to this and why it's important is, well, there's several advantages. For one, I can look at that email that I sent out earlier, but also I can communicate with any of the participants here. So right now it's just the author and me. But if I want to communicate with them, instead of just emailing them, if I use this system, there'll be a record of it. And I can see really conveniently all the correspondence. So it's one of the reasons why I would use this discussion feature. and then it'll all be displayed here. So before I, before I send it to review, I might want other participants in other capacities. And this is how I would, bring another editor if I wanted. Let's see here. There we go. So I can add Abigail if I wanted. So an editorial assignment. Here we go. And I'll just say, please ignore, because it's just a demo. So now in that case, I've got Abigail collaborating as a participant, and maybe I want to say message here, hello, hi, okay, and then now I've got a record of that discussion. Okay, so we're going to send this to review, and this is important, the checkbox here. This is why people were not seeing the files earlier. And I remember thinking, why would you need a checkbox? Of course I want the article here. Well, maybe we don't want one of the other files. Maybe we're working with multiple revisions and we only want the last one. So we check the one that we want, and that's really important moving forward. Okay, yeah, so we're going to send this to review, and now whatever we've checked will show up as review files. If we didn't check anything, there wouldn't be any review files, and that would get confusing. I think the website works with different files by distinguishing them as review files, reviewers, revisions. So each time, if we want to upload something, we do that, and then the website kind of categorizes the files differently. So now it's telling me under status, round 1 status, there could be more rounds for reviews if it's sent for review again. Round 1 status says that we need reviewers to review this. So if I scroll down to reviewers, I'm going to add them here, add reviewer. This is really cool, actually. So this is a list of all the people registered with the website, as well as their interests, music production, hip hop studies, if Zach wants to review things related to those topics. So you can search for people, or you could filter. And filter allows you to specify and say, okay, I don't want anybody who's just done a review in the last 5 days being asked again. So, if I want to specify a slider here, so 9 days ago, 20 days ago, these people, so maybe that's too soon. So I can specify that, okay, halfway through the year, 176 days ago, that seems reasonable. So I can look for Will Straw or, other people listed here. That's one thing. Average days to complete the review. If you're like, I want people who've taken, less time, you can specify that here. There are ratings for reviewers. Afterwards, like, yeah, I don't want somebody who's only given a 3-star review. I need a 5-star review. So I want this guy. So, if somebody gave a review that only had, a couple sentences, as an editor, you could put them 1 star or whatever, and then they wouldn't show up. All kinds of different sliders. So those are fun to play with to help you find your reviewer. Now, I'm going to search for Kwame here. Oh, chat message. Okay, sorry. Okay, cool. Let's see. Here he is. I'm going to select him. Again, I will just say, please ignore. This is just a demo. An article review request. Oh, I actually don't, I'm not going to send it to him, but important deadlines. One is to just respond to the request, and the other is the actual review. We have it set the default to 2 weeks and 3 weeks. Now, the files to be reviewed, again, an important thing to attach, and it's checked off, books I'd like to buy. If we didn't check it before, this would be empty and really confusing. And I think that's the problem people are running into. Review type allows you to specify whether it's double blind, single blind, or just open. And we're going to select the reviewer instructions and add the reviewer. So now it tells me it was assigned to review, was not sent an email notification. Normally you would probably want to send it. And so this status tells me that I've sent the request to Kwame, but he hasn't responded yet. And there's the due date. So I can follow up if I'm wondering every once in a while. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to possess the account of Kwame and accept the review. Okay, so here we go. Search. Okay, log in. Go. Okay, so this is what he sees. The archives shows him that he's worked with 2 things previously. Now under his queue, and also the notification up here would tell him that he has a review pending, and books I'd like to buy is the title. So it's waiting for a response from the review, an alert. Here are the deadlines. So I'm going to go in and review and here are the 4 stages for responding. So a request to review it, there's the information, there's the file that he needs to click to download. So, oops, here we go, click, and it shows up the review assignment there. And information about the deadlines comes up. So yes, I agree to have my data collected. I'm going to accept and move on to the next stage. And this moves us along to the guidelines. So we could have added review guidelines, but we didn't there. So we're going to continue to step 3. There's the file for him and the reviewer instructions. So instead of reviewer guidelines as a file, we have them here. He reads information about the language, the interdisciplinarity, clicks on the file, saves it, adds his comments, makes his judgment, and decides that yes, he wants to recommend it, and ranks it high in all of the categories. Great writing style, highly pertinent, justification of the evaluation. It was good. Suggestions to the author, keep it up. Okay, observations to the editor, it was delightful. Okay, and so now he could upload his review with tracked changes, comments suggested. He could upload it here, and that brings you to the familiar file upload menu. Review discussions, again, you can add them here and specify whether you want it to be included amongst, so the author isn't here, it's amongst the people who are working with the submission. And we're going to recommend that it be accepted. Okay, submit. Yes, I want to submit this. Okay, it is completed and any discussions would be shown here. So I'm going to log out and I'm back here. So new reviews have been submitted, it tells me. It's now in the review stage, it's moved along. So also one of the assigned reviews has been completed. I'm going to go in and it tells me new reviews have been submitted. There are the review files. I see that the reviewer has accepted the submission. So as an editor working with this, I'm confident that it can be accepted and moved along to the copy editing stage. I'm not going to send an email notification to the author, although normally I would, and I'm going to move it along to copy editing and record the editorial decision. So now it's moved from the first stage in the submission, the second stage in the review process, and we're now in the copy editing stage. And here is where I want to assign a participant to copy edit it. I don't think you have to do this, but you know, depending on how many people you're working with, you do. I found out something that was kind of counterintuitive for me, which is normally I would think that you would select copy editor as the role. When I try to do that, and let's say I choose Alex as a copy editor, I find that, and I'll copy editing request. When I try to do that, nothing happens. It just brings me back. And so I think that's a bit of an error, probably because we haven't specified some kind of role. It's an error on the back end that we've got to work through or figure out. But I think it's important for you to know about in case you get frustrated if you're editing and you want to assign a copy editor. So instead, what I found is if we want to bring in somebody to copy edit, we just assign them as a journal editor. So we'll choose Alex is a journal editor. I think that's the role that we have something for, so the website recognizes it. Now, we'll send a copy editing request. So if we want them to copy edit, they'll get the copy editing request here. Again, sorry about all these emails. It's just a demo. So here we go. He's going to get those. And now, Alex is brought on, but he's specified as a journal editor. But you know, we see that we sent him a copy editing request to copy edit. So now he knows that he needs to do that, and he's going to go in, check for grammar, punctuation, do all kinds of copy editing, and he'll upload the file here. I'll just let's see here, upload. Okay, article text, and I'll drag this one. So here's a file. We'll just say that this is the one that's been copy edited. So I'm going to say, oh, I didn't check it. Okay, that was strange. I should have checked it. We'll see if it causes problems. That'll be an interesting experiment. But the file shows up here, copy edited here. Okay, so we're going to send this to production. We're not going to notify the author. Normally we would. We'll send it for production. Okay, now this is checked. So this is the file that will be sent. We're recording the editorial decision, and now we're in the final stage of the workflow. So this is where we add galleys. I just remembered that Mary wanted me to specify that at the copy editing stage and the production stage, she wants anybody working with articles to review the author guidelines, because these are both important stages where things are getting vetted. So it would be another time to return to the front end, have a look at all the guidelines and make sure that the files are matching them. So under publication, we might want to add, so we'll go through, okay, it has all the information here that we need. It has the author, the metadata is important to know, or important to add at the level of the website and the document. That's something else Mary requested. I'm not sure if this is correct, but I think she wants keywords added to the submission itself. I don't know, I'd have to check with her, but she specified that metadata was really important. So you might want, you'll add them here, make sure they're here. There's additional information besides the one that I added here under coverage. You can include information such as the digital object index, I think is the DOI for the source or the type of file. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of that. Now, identifiers, so that's where we would put that, and the galleys. So this is where we would add the final proofs, a PDF version, and we're going to add it here. So article text, we're going to upload a PDF version. This would be the proofs of our article here. Okay. Okay. Permissions, copyright information if we wanted to override it and specify something. If we wanted a special issue, so let's say that we're working with the early career researcher issue, which is a new one coming up, we would specify that here. But we're just going to call it an open one. So that's more publication information here, and we would save it all once we're done inputting it. Back to the workflow, I would just schedule this for publication, and I'm probably not going to click on that just in case it actually does something. So that's how it would get published. That's the process as far as I understand it. I've been teaching myself how to do it as I go, so that's my best guess. But you know, if you run into anything, you can email me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. But that's the process, I believe. So back to submissions. It's now in production there.
Can I just ask a question about the I've never been asked to copy edit anything. And I just wondered if I thought that was
it is. I do think it is a specialist role, depending on the journal and the context. I know people who have accreditation specifically in copy editing. I'm not sure what our policy is for copy editing work, whether it gets you know, given to somebody specialized with copy editing training, or whether we're working with colleagues with it. It's maybe something I'll ask Mary about. So I'll put a note to myself to ask about who copy edits.
Hey, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Simon, hi. I was trying to do this week, and I made the mistake of asking for a copy editor rather than general, and the number of people there is the same. It's the same roster, whatever you choose.
Yeah.
So there's certain people that aren't on there. So I went off that and chose Nick, and I asked Mary who could copy edit, and apparently it's everyone in the editorial board.
Okay.
Chose that from the public side rather than the back end. Having done that, I sent Nick something without the article. So no.
Yeah, so we're all learning. Yeah.
So yeah. He said, yeah, this is brilliant, I'll do it. There's nothing there.
It's almost like grading an assignment when a student doesn't write anything. You're like,
yeah, when they just hand in the corrupt copy, saves you that 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back in and have a look at that. So that's what I was finding. So not all the names of the people that have said that are on the board are on that bit there, and some people whose names that you might put into the search engine don't show up.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Helen isn't registered with the website, so I'm gonna add her as well, I think, or ask her to register if she wants to be involved.
I think as well, I had a couple of papers that were in copy edit before the switch to the new system, so they might be lagging their draft copy. So I'm finding them from elsewhere. So I'm getting Alex to send me them.
Okay.
That was just 2 questions I had.
Just now that I remembered, what I was thinking is I'm going to quickly toggle over to the PowerPoint to make sure that there isn't any information I forgot to mention. Let's see. So the discussion feature I mentioned. Yes, endnotes. So we have a policy, and I'm in the process of asking about the rationale for it, but the policy is restricting authors to 5 endnotes total. I've got to email Raquel, who will know about what our rationale was from before to find out, but it's just something to be aware of if you're reviewing, is that we have that policy of restricting authors to 5 endnotes. And other than that, yeah, I think I've mentioned everything. At times, the website system is really useful for warning when a particular action will compromise an author's identity, and it doesn't let you do that. That's kind of useful. And then some things at a glance that I thought were kind of handy to have as well are word counts, the style for the Journal of Harvard, the font and the file type. So that's everything, I think. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I can see this is going to confuse the hell out of me because I'm working on the Cambridge Scholar One system as well, which is very similar but not quite the same. So every time I go into one, I'm going to be thinking I'm using the other, and
oh yeah, yeah,
screw things up. So I'm bound to get it all wrong. But anyway, yeah. I mean, it seems all straightforward.
yeah, it does
until
there's one little entanglement. And that's what I remember with as a first year undergraduate student taking a calculus class. I was like, oh yeah, this material's definitely straightforward in the lecture, right? Like everything worked. And then all of a sudden when I had to do it myself, it's like, wait a second. Yeah. So I think what might be helpful is important references. So all of that information that I was just showing is on the submissions menu, but also useful things such as in the back end, the help feature is good to know about, and the table of contents. And then also, sorry, my Zoom stuff. There we go. It's interfering. So also under YouTube, these tutorials are useful. But if you're short on time, you definitely just send me an email. My role is to help authors and reviewers, editors with any issues related to the website or anything like that. So send me an email. And you have several resources you can consult as well in the meantime.
Thanks, Eric. That's super helpful.
Yeah, I hope so. Cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything seems perfectly logical, and then as you say, I'm going to find out all these little things that I tried to do.
Wait till you get into it, and it's like and then and it does go. There's a lot going into junk, so I just check my junk every day for those, and it might come from a kind of a weird person. So I've something's come in from an author, and I've assigned it to reviewers, but I got an email from the author accepting the review.
Okay, yeah, so that can be strange, and
I'm sure that'd be really
that's where I think it might be useful to check those discussion records.
Yeah,
because they know exactly who said what.
Yeah.
And if you take away anything from this, also it's the phrase "check the box."
Okay.
Always check the box. Remember to look for that little checkbox. Otherwise, your files just vanish because it's like, oh, well, no, I didn't want to include any files for this review, right? Like, yeah.
Oh, right. I look forward to remedying my errors.
Yeah. Laura, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
No.
No. Okay.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I have a question regarding the schedule of the publication.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we have the capacity for deciding when every editor can decide. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I think it depends on the role you have. So right now, for this publication, I'm assigned in an editorial role. I assign myself. So if I go in and I view it, let's say, so different stages, but let's say I'm concerned with the review process. Now, he's already reviewed it, but maybe I want to change the decision and I want to request revisions. So it will be subject to a new round of peer reviews. We're not going to send an email notification. We're going to check the box. And we're going to change this editorial decision. So round one status, why is it submission accepted? I just said that I wanted another round. This is interesting. Okay. Request, oh, okay. Now if I just decline, it's just declined. This is really strange. Because I don't want to, well, that's disappointing because I was hoping under the next round, I'd be able to specify the deadline information. Okay, maybe this is something that I need to trouble.
Just refresh it, maybe.
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah, so gonna view. Yes, great, great thinking. So it had to be refreshed. So that's something that is important to know too. I didn't think about that as anytime you're not getting the information you expected, it's good to refresh it. So must be submitted for another round. This is interesting. I would have thought that it would have been changed, but I think there's something else now that I need to do. So let's see if maybe I need to add another reviewer. So this time I'm going to add, let's see, Abigail again. Okay. Oh, see, this is interesting. This reviewer is locked because they've been assigned a role which allows them to view the author's identity. So I can't do that. It alerts me of that conflict of interest. I think that's really useful. But for now, we'll just unlock it anyways. And we're going to select reviewer. You'll get all this, and I'll just say ignore demo. Okay. And okay, add reviewer. So maybe, well, I wonder why it's not giving us another round. Submission accepted, request revisions, even after we refreshed. So I'm gonna, if this doesn't work, and I don't see why it would work, I'm going to, will not be selected to request. Oh, requesting revisions isn't the same thing as requesting another round of submissions. It's just telling the author that he's got to do stuff, I think. So round one, another round of reviews. So I'm going to try declining.
You could just add another reviewer, couldn't you? Or
I did. I just added Abigail as a reviewer.
Yeah.
Oh, but Abigail hasn't accepted yet. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's see here. I was thinking about this. If I go under your account, it'll show me the submissions that you're currently working with. So that's kind of a privacy thing. So I'll try, let's see. Laura, are you working with anything currently? I think you are.
I'm copy editing something. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to, Well, I'm not. Maybe I can specify myself. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna choose myself. Okay. And the file to be reviewed. It's checked. It's checked. Okay. Reviewer instructions. Okay. So I think this will help. So I'm going to view this now as a reviewer. I'm going to accept everything. Okay. And then maybe this will show the, okay. I'm just going to save this for later. Okay, so I'm still working on the review. Now, if I go back into this, review assignment, it's kind of clouding things. Yeah. All right. All right, so this doesn't help. But what I would expect if I were to go under the review stage for can I view this? View submission. I would expect the deadlines, you'd be able to specify it under this tab, because initially
when you assign the reviewer, don't it puts those automatic dates in there, but can't you edit them then?
Yes, that's what I was expecting to see and be able to change. The problem is it's now showing me as a reviewer because I assigned myself as a review and everything. And
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, right. And if I checked all these things and accepted it, we'd be back to square one. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so from a kind of technical perspective, we can just do that. But from a kind of, what's the word, a sort of organizational or governance perspective, presumably there are rules about who can change deadlines.
Maybe. I think it's probably an informal matter of communicating with the editor. That would be my guess. Is if so, for example, I think it's very common for the reviewers to miss their deadlines, and then you have to update the deadline. In that case, I would probably just go into that review screen, update the deadline with the new deadline, and say, okay, we'd like it in 2 more weeks or something like that, a week or 2 or something like that. If you're really concerned about informing the editor, or you could send Mary an email and let her know, or I think what might be really useful is, and I wonder if I can decline this, or well, I'm gonna see if I can just accept all this so I can get back to the initial screen I was showing you. Because what I want to show you is the discussion, right? So I think that would be a good place to let the editor know. So, okay, accept. Okay. So that's all complete. Yes, editorial workflow, good. Okay, so now I'm back to where I wanted to be. If you were creating a new deadline, I think maybe under review discussions, this add discussion, and you've got participants here. So these are all the people involved. If you're concerned about everybody knowing about the deadline, you might say, okay, so here I have, we'll just pretend Alex isn't involved, but Kwame has missed the deadline, and now I'm working with a co-editor here, and I would just say, so updated deadlines. Okay, so Kwame's review is now due on March 16th. Something like that. So this is okay. Okay, a discussion cannot be created because it would impact the anonymity of the review process. So that's gotten all confused with all my tangling of roles. But the review discussion would be a way to kind of communicate that to everybody involved, I think. That's what I would recommend. But I personally, I don't think it's that big of a deal unless you're working with something that needs to be published under a tight deadline. In which case, you definitely want to communicate with the author. If it's something that's in the pipeline for like a year or two down the road, then you'd probably just work with the reviewer on it. I don't know. Maybe Mary would have a different opinion about that. Anything else? We're coming up on 1 hour or so, and yeah, the first time I gave this demo was actually like 1 hour and 15 minutes because we were troubleshooting something, so that works. Abigail, looks like you want to add something. No, okay. All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me. Yeah, helping me troubleshoot some things. I feel like I learned some stuff about the refreshing that was useful, and also a couple obstacles for me to untangle in the back end. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. So everybody has my email, and if you ever need to reach me, please feel free.
Cheers, Eric.
Right.